folks, I'm going to try to be super quick here because I think this video for the Harriet Jacobs work for today is really quite excellent. When you look at the video, excuse me, you can focus on the sections about Jacobs and Douglass. So I'm just showing you here the introduction, Slavery in America, important background information. Frederick Douglass is somebody that we don't get much chance to work on here in this class, but if I had more time, we'd spend more time on Douglass. And then we go into talking about Harriet Beecher Stowe about halfway through the video. Harriet Beecher Stowe is very famous, but because I'm an expert in this time period and this kind of literature, I know a lot about her, and I know she was not kind to Harriet Jacobs. And she didn't really believe in black equality. So I don't know if they really tell you that about Stowe in this video, but that's just a little kind of aside. So don't worry too much about Harriet Beecher Stowe. Focus on the first half of the video and then perhaps the comparison here with Stowe Jacobs and Douglass's legacies. So in our Harriet Jacobs folder, I have included just excerpts from Jacobs' narrative, but I will post a link if you want to read all of Harriet Jacobs' narrative. It's available in a website from the New York Public Library called Digital Schomburg. So I will try to remember to add that link in case anyone wants to read the whole narrative. Now my computer is slowly opening the excerpts from Incidents. I included parts of Harriet Jacobs' story, not all. They do talk about her sexual choices, her romance life, her choice to take a white man as her partner. But one of the things that I've written about in my own book, this is my book cover right here, it's called Race, Romance, and Rebellion, Literatures of the Americas in the 19th Century, and I have a chapter about Harriet Jacobs. One of the things I emphasize in the book, because the book is about interracial love, is that Harriet Jacobs tells us a lot about love, first in creating this ideal image of a black man who's her first lover. And I think that is incredibly important. When we look at her attempt to love a man who truly saw her as an equal, and when we look at how her master and her mistress destroyed that opportunity, that to me is the most powerful part of the story. The next part of the story that I include, sorry if this is making you dizzy, is jumping ahead to when she chooses that white lover, because she figures if she can at least choose the white man that's going to take advantage of her, that's better than letting the master take her virginity. She finds out that she's going to have a child. Now, all of this has been historically documented, and it's a really important and powerful story. But of course, you notice how her master and her grandmother really come down on her. Now, the next chapter that I included is called Fear of Insurrection. It's about poor whites and how they get manipulated to hate black people and to contribute to the problems of racism by wealthy, landowning politicians, elite white people. I kind of think that still happens today in American culture. So I think this is an important chapter. It's also noticing here, we've thought about Nat Turner, talking about what happened in the aftermath of Nat Turner's insurrection and how white people used Nat Turner's uprising as an example to harass and come down on all black people. And finally, we have a chapter about the church. She's very critical of any church that supports slavery. I hope the sound quality isn't too bad here because I am doing this at the YMCA while my children are in child watch, so you don't have to hear all the giggling. But one of my favorite quotes in here is when she refers to people who are enslaved as God-breathing machines. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, not showing up. Okay, maybe it doesn't have a hyphen in it. I just thought that was really powerful. God breathing. No, maybe it's not in this section. I'm sorry. But because people who are enslaved are treated as machines, not as humans, but she calls them God-breathing machines, it kind of ironically points out what John Merritt also says about the Spirit of God making everybody truly equal. So that's just a point that I wanted to bring up. But she, like I said, she's critical of the church because, as we saw in Turner, the church was used to justify slavery. She uses her own sense of religion in a really powerful way. So I just want to draw your attention to this part. I found the door ajar. I stood for a moment gazing at the hateful man who claimed a right to rule me, mind, me, body, and soul. And I think that's a very powerful idea, that he tries to control her soul. She claims he never got to her body, but we know he never got to her soul. So she does use religion to protect herself. Those are just a few of my thoughts on Jacobs. I wanted to share her with you because she's one of my favorite authors and examples of African American culture. And we'll talk more about Jacobs in a future discussion post. Like I said, the workload will be a little bit less for the rest of the week, so you can process all of this. All of the work that I've seen so far has been terrific, so thank you so much for your great efforts. And I will talk to you soon. Take care.